We're talking whole house cabinetry.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Top to bottom,
Yep.
everything in between. So what kind of, I mean, I'm sure that process can be pretty long when you're working with somebody to design every single cabinet in their house.
Boy, can it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks for tuning in to another ACo Designer Chat. My name is Mia Farrell. I'm a designer at ACo, and I'm here to help you love where you live. And on today's Designer Chat, we're talking about another way that we go about doing that. We've got a very special guest, Patrick Gray with Executive Homes, a custom home builder out of Carmel. And Patrick leans on the people at this table to do what you do best. So thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what you gues do over at Executive.
Yeah, so Executive Homes, we've been in business for over 25 years. We build predominantly on the north side, Zionsville, Fishers, Carmel, full custom homes, start from design. They meet with actually my dad, Pete Gray, who owns the company. Meet with him, go over kind of all their hopes and dreams and wishes and get something on paper. From there, we start the construction process, which obviously involves a lot of design, where we rely on our good friends at ACo to help us through that process, which can be sometimes a difficult process, especially in today's day and age.
Yeah, and sometimes a lengthy process too.
Oh, absolutely.
Where do you start? When you bring people to ACo, what's the first step?
Sure. So when we're doing design, the first thing to think about is cabinetry and appliances. So you select your appliances, then you meet with Carlie. And we kind of build the cabinets, obviously, to fit the space in the house. You know, appliances are important because you've got to fill all the spaces. So fridges, microwaves, ranges, all that. So they meet with Carlie first, kind of go over the first design, kind of get everything on paper. And then Carlie, I believe you work with clients, you know, kind of at the tail end, making changes and then finalizing a lot of the colors and textures and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so we always start out with like the initial floor plan that you guys have designed. And so I'll kind of take a first crack at it and design the kitchen. And then once they've actually like committed to Executive, then we come in and look at that plan and start making like their custom tweaks to it. So I help with all the color selections, door styles, everything like that. So
yeah, so we're talking whole house cabinetry.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Right. Top to bottom, everything in between. So what kind of, I mean, I'm sure that process can be pretty long when you're working with somebody to design every single cabinet in their house.
boy, can it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how many times do you think that you meet with somebody to get through that process?
It depends on the client for sure. I mean, in the past, we've had some real marathons going on. But I think for the most part, most clients will kind of wrap it up in about maybe 3-4 meetings. There's definitely some back and forth. So whatever input I get in that meeting, we'll update our drawings, create new 3D drawings, and then present that the next time they come in. And it's just this back and forth process until we land exactly on their perfect cabinet design.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm sure that everybody loves working with you. You have such a good eye for cabinetry and all those details, like you said, Patrick, bringing people's dreams to life. Sometimes those details in the cabinetry are really what set it apart from a run-of-the-mill design. So so happy that you are able to do that. What other materials are we talking about here? This guy does some work.
Yeah. So after, again, cabinets are kind of initial design meeting. It's such a big part, you know, kind of even, you know, what brand of cabinets, you know, do you want a full custom, semi-custom? So once they get that dialed in, they meet with Joe to go over tile, wood flooring, LVP, and those meetings, I know, as I've been in many of them, can be lengthy as well. And it takes a real expert to know not only, you know, what materials you have, but, you know, how things are going to get laid. There's so many specifics, especially when it comes to tile. That you have to take an account for. You know, how is this tile going to lay out in a 6-foot space as compared to a 5-foot space? So we really get into the weeds in those design meetings to kind of pick not only the right colors, textures, you know, right product, but also how it's going to get laid in the house. So that's even, you know, that's kind of an initial. We have a document or a piece of paper that kind of shows, you know, how the design is going to look, and you go over, I mean, all the details, but kind of niches you have. You know, do you want a shelf? Do you want a little recessed niche? Do you want it to be an accordion shelf piece? Do you want it to be a countertop piece? So, I mean, you really get into the weeds, shower by shower, room by room, bath floor by bath floor to get that dialed in.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets down to the grout color, and there's so many options. There's so many selections to make, and And I think sometimes that can be overwhelming because it's almost like information overload.
Absolutely.
It's overwhelming for people a lot of times.
How do you get people dialed in?
Well, I think, like any good thing, any good project you're going to get into and take a step back and talk about the ability to partner with someone who is at least looking forward. And that's what Executive is doing. So their design sets a good stage for me. So, and you get a consumer in, and if you've got a quality product to work with to start, then we're going to be okay, right? I mean, it's overwhelming, it's daunting. People are just, deer in the headlights because they just not made this many selections. You go into an average house, you look around, you take for granted that you might walk into one bathroom space and there may be 5 tiles in there. And that's to go along with the fact that they've already had to think about that cabinet, that counter, the lighting, the faucets, and you got to bring all that together. So, really having that strong, solid base to start with, I think is outstanding. And then from there, it's like anything in this world. You want to get to know the person. You've got to invest in the person building the home. What is your vision? I mean, I can give you anything you're after.
Right.
I mean, it's the same for Carlie. You can go to someone and if you give me a white box and tell me you just want me to be creative, cool, that sounds fine. Now, at the end of the day, you may not be excited. Right. I think it's really super cool. It might be the coolest thing that I've ever done, but you may be a little underwhelmed. So, it's really about getting to know them and in reassuring them. I personally feel like along the way, if you don't help people understand, like, this is a solid choice, because when there are infinite possibilities, that you could make that part of it take forever. Like, there are some people who run into information overload, analysis paralysis. They're sitting there and they just can't make a decision. You've got to reassure them by, quality product, solid value, commensurate with the build that you're putting together. We've got to put a package together that makes sense. And guess what? You still have to like it. And so I really feel like that solid design start point, getting to know the consumer, easy steps from there.
Yeah. And Joe, I see a lot of times too that, homeowners, there's 100 ways to make a room or space look amazing, and homeowners are more fearful of, I don't want to make the wrong decision, right? I don't want it to look bad. Yeah. And so, especially with your designs too in 3D, the 3D renderings really help people kind of get a vision of, okay, this is how the tile looks in a box or on a sample board, but this is how it's going to lay out on the wall. Right. And so that alone, again, you want to reassure people that you're not only making a good decision, you're not making a bad decision, because people really are fearful of that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing to consider too is how the rooms flow from one to another, right? Some cohesion in our design. Absolutely. How often do you find that people are either really, really serious about that, or you kind of have to, have that conversation to point out how one room's going to flow to another? Yeah.
Well, my comment on that would be that that's one of the sweet spots for us, because we have, again, in our showroom, we've got the cabinet material, we've got the counter material, we've got the wood, we've got the LVP, we've got the carpet, we've got the tile, and we have other products through here that are related to what they're doing. So whether we're servicing them with that or not, we can bring things together and we can help create that vision of cohesion from space to space. And when you bring in the other products, so it's oftentimes you'll be selecting one thing, but you'll have to kind of stop what you're doing, come over here, integrate another part of the project, so that way you can continue to keep things moving downstream. The consumer, I think, really appreciates that approach, because it saves them the time from taking a bunch of chips that are this big and running around town, and I guess it looks good with this, but maybe it doesn't. And, you're just really able to give them peace of mind on the way out the door.
And what's great about Executive Homes too is we have an internal designer / project coordinator in Val, and she goes with our clients to every meeting and tries to make that cohesive, right? Okay, so here's all your cabinet samples. Well, we want the tile and the countertop to be cohesive, and we want all the spaces to work, and you're talking paint color. I mean, what's your faucet color? What's your hardware? And so it's helpful for us with it being Executive Homes that we have someone internally that can help manage those projects, because it is difficult. I mean, homeowners, they have jobs, they have lives, they have kids. I mean, so it's helpful to have that help internally with us, where I can give, Joe a call, or Carlie a call, or Tom a call, and Val a call. We all kind of are all working together to get the project,
with the end goal in mind.
With the end goal in mind, exactly.
Like you said, some people have never made this many decisions before for one single project. It's so much. So it's a good thing we have big islands here because we can lay all those materials out.
Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Utilize
you
the
could have 100 sample boards out there. It's like, what's going to go,
right,
and again.
Exactly. Here's your whole house right here on this island. But selections are just part of it, right? So let's talk about what happens when we get to construction.
Sure.
You need some help.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you're talking about stuff coming from us.
Oh, yeah.
You need some support to lean on in Tom.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what's that process look like? Because obviously we're in very early on with floor plans and planning and that kind of thing, but we're with you to the end.
Yeah, so what kind of to start off, we're talking about mechanics too. Early on it's like, well, Tom, Joe, how do we want the shower drain to work? How do we want these valves to work so they line up? So, very early on, pre-drywall, we're talking about that kind of thing in the field. We just met at a job in Holiday Farms to go over a shower bench. And how is this transition going to work? And hey, we think we need to add. We're talking inches here, like an inch to the shower seat, so the glass can lay perfectly between. Right. So it's that much involvement so early on. We have kind of a pre-tile meeting. So Joe's been in all the meetings. We haven't been in all the meetings, and so we have all those drawings. We meet all together with the homeowners, and in the space, we can lay out the tile and go, where do you want to center this tile?
Sure.
How do you want this to lay out? Because you can get really specific, and when you're full custom, some people don't care how the tile lays out, but a lot of people do, and so it's nice to get that in an initial meeting, and so we're all on the same page, so there's no confusion of, oh, I wanted this tile to line up here and do that, and so we get into the detail even before we put any type of tile or anything down. Yeah. So it's very, very much involvement with everyone at an early stage.
Yeah. What's a day in the life like when you're on site at an executive home?
There's a lot going on. You've got different trades going. Tile guys get out there. So typically we'll walk it with him first, and then I'll meet out there with the actual installers and kind of, show them pictures of drawings. We place those in every room so they know what they're looking at, and then answer any questions, concerns that the installer might have, and they might see something that maybe me and Patrick might have missed. Sure. And then we sit there and get with them, get with Patrick, figure out a solution, and then get the answers back to the guys so they can keep moving along.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the biggest parts of it. We're all kind of managers here, but the guys that install it, the guys that deliver, they're doing a lot of the work. They're the true artists, and so that's the great thing about ACo is that you guys not only have the people to manage it, but the people to actually install it. Best of the business. Raul, Caesar, Savez. Just the people that work. Not necessarily behind the scenes, but the people that do all the installation.
Yeah,
it's
all the hands-on.
It's the best I've ever seen.
Life,
right?
For real.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And truly take pride in their work. Every time a job is complete, it's just the guys look at it and it's like, man, that just turned out really nice. And so the pride in that we all take into that project, it's awesome at the end when it's all cleaned up and it's like, wow, we spent a long time in this shower, for example, a long time just figuring out how this was going to work. And so it's just a great process all the way through.
Well, that's great to hear.
And I also think that we've been thrown some curveballs the past year or more. Because in normal times, our process would be that, the cabinet design's done, I would go measure once they're pretty much through framing, not quite to drywall. Yep. And now that lead times are extended out, Patrick and I have really had to switch our game plan up. Yeah. So basically we're doing everything in reverse right now. So I provide a plan and then he builds
and then I frame to the plan.
Yeah.
So and the designs always work out really well. We've kind of tweaked some of our ideas around just to make it fit spaces a little bit better.
Yeah.
But that process has worked a lot better again to kind of eliminate those lead times as much as possible while we're still going through the construction process.
Right. Just one of the many reasons why it's great to work with a custom builder to be able to make those decisions, make those pivots, make those changes together.
Absolutely right. We're dealing with one in real time right now where the reality of the world is that supplies are not necessarily sitting where you want them to be. Never before has just in time meant just in time. And sometimes a little bit longer than that. If you can't wait, what do we do? I can say that this is really the place where the two of these guys end up having to work together a lot. We're setting out a lot of great plans up front. We're putting some steps in motion. But just yesterday we had a client who the reality is the material has been ready for months, but it's not ready in a capacity that can make it to us. It's still not onto a container, hasn't been put onto a truck to be transported to where it needs to go. So the reality of it is it's in stock, right? What does that even mean? So now you got Tom he's got to pivot. He's got to figure out, okay, am I going to move this schedule around? So now he's in mass communication with Patrick because we're going to impact something out there. We're going to have to, work together. This is where it's really important to be working with professionals like Executive who know how to build a house in a bunch of different ways, who know how to say, hey, this does not have to come before this. We can move this piece over here. We'll make some changes. Tom can come back. Okay, no worries. Because he's in control of 5 or 6 parts of the schedule, he can shift gears, move people around, still produce a high quality product that this person's paid for.
Yeah, and that's what we're always trying to accomplish. Again, there's a sequence to building that you always try to stick to. But then reality hits. Like you said, the wood flooring's delayed or something's delayed. And so we've been working, especially the past 2 or 3 years, I'll call Tom, 5, 10 times a day. Just, hey, how do we want to do this? How do we want to coordinate this? And so it's been a lot more oversight has been needed just to keep a project moving. Hey, we don't need that necessarily right now. Let's do all these other things and then we'll have to circle back. And so it's obviously created delays and headaches, but I think the best part about all of us too is that we always try to keep, you guys keep me in the loop. Hey, this is delayed. And then I keep the clients in the loop. I don't want any surprises. Hey, I hate to bring you bad news, but I'd rather bring you bad news than no news. So I always try to keep people in the loop about that as well.
Well, and frankly, I interpret it like this, right? It's not really my responsibility to judge the tenor of the news for someone, right? I tell you guys this all the time. The reality is, I'm bringing you information, and we're going to have to make a decision on it. So if we can remain focused, we'll provide as many solutions as we can. For us, I got to say, the biggest part about with Tom coming in for us from more of a flooring and remodel background and then moving into the builder side, Tom's background is in installation, so he knows what the person is going through. He's dealt with all the steps. He knows what the installer is going through. So a lot of times, problems that we could run into, problems that would be bigger or more magnified because might as well get second residence in some of these neighborhoods because he's in there so much. It would be nice, right? They're pretty nice places. But he is able to preemptively tell us. I oftentimes know about anything that could be of concern before I could even possibly get there. And I'm probably going to that same neighborhood the same day, but he's already been there. He's already saw it and put his eyes on the situation and put a plan together. That responsiveness, people don't quite understand how important it is right now. That's going to take a build that could turn into 15, 16 months and bring it back to 12 or 13. And the reality is that's how long it takes to build something.
Right, that used to be 10 months.
Yeah, it used to be.
Just with how lead times have been and delays and construction labor for it. It's just been, but again, keeping people in the loop. It's like, hey, I really hate to tell you about delays. It kills me probably more than it kills you, but I want to be honest up front. I want you guys to know. That is just the main part about all of. It's like, hey, Joe, just circling back to the wood flooring. My homeowners, they're trying to close in the middle of May. Pat, should we be concerned? It's like, guys, I know you're in good hands. You're going to meet with Joe, and there's going to be 10 other wood samples or wood pieces. Just yesterday.
It really was. This is a situation that came up. We put, and then at least 10 were on the floor.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what they realized, and again, back to the selection overload, they were looking at it and they're like, man, a lot of these are the same. Exactly. We will find a solution. There is another way to do the exact same thing that we had planned to do. You just have to stay sharp, stay focused, and stay committed to that outcome.
Right.
Yeah, well, this partnership is fantastic. I know that all parties involved are always working towards the best end goal for homeowners that are building with you. We could talk all day. It's a long process.
I was going to say,
There's so much that goes into it.
We got to probably go to work, right?
This is stuff we're actually building that has to close.
Actually got to make these houses happen. Is there anything else that any of you would like to add about what this process is like, what working together is like, anything at all that we didn't touch on?
I think I would add this to it. Timeline-wise, we've been attached with Executive Homes for going on 10 years, I think. We used to share a parking lot, basically. And so, one of those things, right, this is, and I don't, does it make a difference for the client? I like to think so. I like to think that because we're partners, right?
Yeah.
Executive Homes isn't my client. Patrick Gray isn't some guy who calls me and just, he's one more guy on my list. I'm in partnership building a home with Patrick Gray. ACo Executive Homes, they've been together a long time. They know how each other works. We know all the people, the behind the scenes people know one another. We spend time with one another outside of work. I mean, it's really something that when you take that to a consumer, you can translate that into just a smoother experience because everyone is very comfortable with each other. I really feel like that's how I want to operate in this space. That's how I want this to look when I'm working each day. It feels better when you're working with people that are darn near your family.
Yeah, I was just about to say, friends and family, I mean, there's just that relationship over the years. I mean, there's inherently trust. I mean, the trust that you have to have in all the people that you work with. I mean, it's a long, difficult process, and it's like, I trust Carlie to come up with the best designs I've ever seen. Every time I see them, it's like, holy cow, you know, Joe, the selections, you start looking at them, it's like, wow, this really makes the project happen. And so just that trust that Executive Homes and ACo has in each other, I know the end product is always gonna be beautiful. The project might not always be seamless, but we work out the kinks along the way. And again, it's a team effort. You know, we're always getting to that end goal of we want the best product, the best final product for our homeowners, for our clients. And so I think that's kind of the relationship that I don't see ever ending. I mean, it's been an awesome experience.
We're fans.
Thanks.
It's a beautiful thing. Yep. It's a beautiful thing. We appreciate you so much for joining us today. Thanks to all of you for taking time, and tune in next time. Hear more.
Thanks.
You guys are so cute.